probably going to say, oh, well, then I just want silver because of blah. Go back to its functionality. We've talked many times, and I've shown you this before, that before we get to that visible hyperinflation, that silver to gold ratio, right? The price of spot silver to the price of spot gold. It's been at nosebleed levels, like 110 times or something ridiculous like that. And remember what the original ratio was, a 20th of an ounce of gold, what I have in my fingers, to 1 ounce of silver, right? So 110 to 1 is a far cry away from that 20 to 1. So my expectation is to see, because this is what history shows me, is that that ratio will narrow. And then as we enter the hyperinflationary phase, I believe it will grow again because, again, first we're going to take a look at what happened this morning before we even got on today. And you can see spot silver above $70 an ounce and spot gold, pretty darn close to $4,500 an ounce. Now, gold and silver hit all-time highs as geopolitical tensions rise. And yes, that is definitely part of what's pushing this now. But do not forget the shift that started last January, where it is typically the paper markets, all those contracts that have been driving prices, and now we're going into the physical markets. So while there's a lot of things happening geopolitically, and by the way, you are not going to want to miss the interview that I did with Javier. He's Venezuelan, and he was just there 2 weeks ago. He's got a bird's eye view, probably one of the best interviews that I've personally ever done. So much material there, you're going to want to watch it more than once, I'm sure. But when we're looking at what's happening in the news and with oil, and I don't know, are we headed to World War III? Are we already in World War III? But that would certainly be one reason for the push into I think, physical gold and silver, because the reality is, and the guys at the top know this very well, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So what we're looking at here, because I pulled them from last night, is this is the spot silver market. And of course, it went up even more this morning. That's from yesterday. And then this is the spot gold market. And spot gold has had a pretty darn good rally. But keep in mind those 200-day moving averages. So if we get a little pullback, remember how I told you, and you can really see it twice in this chart, 10% away from that 200-day moving average. And I don't care what you're looking at. It can be stocks, it can be cryptos, it can be spot gold or spot silver. It doesn't matter. 10% away from that red line, which is the 200-day moving average, is considered a lot. Well, I can't really read it from here, but we're about probably 30% away from that 200-day moving average. So it can stay up there. And what you're looking at here on the chart is a consolidation where it just stays inside of a range, giving that 200-day moving average a chance to catch up to it. So we can get a little bit of a pullback, and it can just stay in a range. It can stay over, it's not overvalued fundamentally. Technically, it can be overvalued, like pretty much everything is right now in the markets, because they want to keep you in there. But, I know I'm going to get asked about a correction, and we could certainly see that, and it wouldn't bother me even one little bit, because what you're really looking at here are paper contracts. That's what you're looking at. Easy to buy, easy to sell, cheap. They can control a lot of gold and a lot of silver. But it's in the physical markets, things don't move that quickly. And that's where I have my wealth, is in the physical markets. The new middle class, this is from this morning's New York Times. The new middle class, nothing seems affordable. House, children, all feel out of reach as pessimism sets in. Well, this pessimism is about confidence, isn't it? And you see what we've got is an evolution. Politicians and central bankers cannot really afford this pessimism because this is where revolution comes from. And we need a revolution in this world, not just this country. In this world, we need a revolution. We don't need a war that we see breaking out all around the world, but a revolution to bring sound money back into the system again so that we cannot be abused. And with that, it's kind of a good segue into these charts on the British pound. So this is the British pound against the US dollar. Okay, so it's actually 1 year chart is down almost 6%. Here's the spot silver chart. Okay, we can see how well that's done. I don't know. The dollar's supposed to be so strong. It isn't, or this would be indicating that the British pound is stronger than the dollar. It's not. This is more of an indication of the truth of purchasing power. So in terms of spot silver, 1 year up over almost 114%, and probably as of today above 114%. And then this is spot gold, 1 year, and again, both spot silver and spot gold severely outperform currency to currency. They use that in a relative basis only. But when you're hearing them say we have a strong dollar, or the British pound is stronger against the dollar, this is what they're referring to. It doesn't really mean very much unless you are traveling and you have to use another currency. So you might have a bit of an advantage. But the reality is that what the spot silver and gold charts show you is that the British pound is losing purchasing power, just like every other fiat currency is. You can also see in these the outperformance of spot silver to spot gold. And so now a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, well, then I just want silver because of blah. Go back to its functionality. We've talked many times, and I've shown you this before, that before we get to that visible hyperinflation, that silver to gold ratio, right? The price of spot silver to the price of spot gold. It's been at nosebleed levels, like 110 times or something ridiculous like that. And remember what the original ratio was: a 1/20 of an ounce of gold, what I have in my fingers, to 1 ounce of silver, right? So 110 to 1 is a far cry away from that 20 to 1. So my expectation is to see, because this is what history shows me, is that ratio will narrow. And then as we enter the hyperinflationary phase, I believe it will grow again because, again, that's what history shows me. I'm also going to give you a bit of a longer view on this because this is, again, the US dollar to the British pound, but now this is going out 10 years. And you can see in the 10 years, the dollar is not even 12% stronger than the British pound. It's so irrelevant, but this is what we hear all the time. So understanding when they say that, what that actually means, empowers you to understand what they're saying. Here is the spot silver chart over 10 years, up 421%. And here's the spot gold chart. Now, what's interesting to me, because that's up 349.53%. This is all over a 10-year period. Typically, you don't, and I do this all the time, you guys know that, you typically don't see spot silver outperforming, but that's the level that it's outperformed in this last year. So this is a repetition of history. It's a good thing, but it shows you the truth, or closer to the truth anyway, of what's happening with the fiat money and why we are probably hearing all over the place that it is the devaluation trade, and that now even Wall Street is saying every currency is falling against gold and silver. But paper will not help you. You got to have the physical. So that answers the question that I had on the British pound, because it doesn't matter relative to the purchasing power, which is what we're looking at here. And you can see that gray bar that you see in the middle is 2020, that itty bitty teeny weeny recession, into this massive K-shaped economy that is getting even more K-shaped, which means that those that are at the top are doing better and better and better because of the inflation, and those at the bottom are doing worse and worse and worse. And when you look at these different charts and you see the dollar against whatever currency you want, what you don't see is what I'm showing you here, the purchasing power. But that's what the spot charts are telling you. And even though the talking heads in Wall Street are talking about gold and silver a whole lot more here, they never put the term spot in front of it, which they should, because that's a contract. This is not a contract. This is the real thing. But this is what matters to you and me, not how many dollars we have. We're here. I'll just use this one. This is $1 million bolivar that I can, or a million bolivars actually, that I can buy nothing with. It doesn't matter how many zeros there are on the end. What matters is what you can convert it into. They don't want you to look at that, but you experience it every time you go to the grocery store, you have to pay a bill. You're experiencing that. And then what this is, I wanted to do a little update on Zimbabwe gold, right? So this is the ZIG, Zimbabwe gold, against the US dollar. And you can see that recent reset that happened in October of 2024. You can also see how it kind of looks like it's leveling out, but not really. This is spot silver to the ZIG, or the ZWIG, and this is spot gold. So again, really interesting because of what's happening in the spot silver market. And I can't go out 10 years because it hasn't existed for 10 years. This just goes back to April of 2024 when they brought out this 6th iteration of a new currency. And again, don't miss that interview on Saturday. It was phenomenal. We didn't put the audio in here where he's talking about spot gold, but you can see the NASDAQ that's coming in, erasing December losses, except what really matters is the purchasing power and what you can convert that into. That is what really matters. And also, I thought this was an interesting headline. JP Morgan is exploring crypto trading for institutional clients. Pet rock? No longer. There is this massive rush by the institutions and the governments and even the central banks, because the central banks are now exploring it. They will be shoving this crap down our throats. Can you see how important it is to get redeemable gold, sound money back in the system again? Do you really want them to have you have no privacy anyway. I don't care what you're doing. You're on camera constantly, no matter where you are, even in your own homes with smart TVs and cell phones and all of this. Do you really want them to be able to play you like a puppet? Because that's what they do now. How much worse will it be when they know 100% of everything that you do and can push a button and say, nope, can't do that. Must do this. I don't want them to have that level of control. Do you? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. And if your answer is yes, then rock and roll hoochie coo and just keep playing into the fiat money markets. But if your answer is no, make sure you have your sound money strategy fully in place and executed. And don't worry about what's happening so much in the spot markets. Any bullion's going to be impacted on the short term, and this is just raw. This kind of stuff will be impacted by that. But the better data coins, as impacted as they will be, are not as impacted by it. What it does is the more that the spot market goes up, it gets more eyes. And when things get more eyes, which is how they get compliance and adoption, all right, so more people are looking at buying gold and silver, and that's okay as long as they come here to get the education to understand why they really need gold and silver. And they're not just treating it, and you're just not treating it like a trade, because gold and silver is not a trade for me. It is my insurance. It is the foundation of my legacy, because this is sound money that cannot be inflated away by governments and central banks. And while they can control those contracts, so that's pretty handy for them, in the physical world, in the physical only world, which is what the collectibles are, that they can't control because it's purely supply and demand. And I'll even tell you something else that I find quite interesting. People that I've spoken to years and years ago that said, oh, just bullion, oh, the collectibles, oh, no, blah, 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 blah. Guess what they're talking about now? Isn't that interesting? They're talking about the collectibles more and more. I'm not going to use the names on air, but if you go back and look at some of the work that some of these people have done, they poo-pooed it, and now they're embracing it. Why are they embracing it? And does that mean that they understand it? No, they do not. This is where I have lived my life. I understand how these markets move, and I understand the opportunities.